the challenges that I'm facing right now. So some of the challenges that I'm facing now is starting to think about, okay, the organization is growing really quickly. And that means that sort of sales are accelerating. The sales org is accelerating. It's growing. We've got an engineering team that's also sort of growing massively. And I need to really hurry up and figure out what structure do I need for a learning team to be able to support and also anticipate where the business is going, so that I can already be sort of ahead of the curve a little bit. So I start figuring out, okay, if HR is structuring like this and sales is like this, and okay, how do I start thinking about my team? So that's the one bit. The other challenge is there's so many priorities, and so you need to think about, okay, what's going to make the most impact, and what can I do scrappy? What can I sort of just get it out there? What's going to take a little bit more time, and where do I need to bring in some structure, which in sometimes it's a little bit like, ooh, that's like the word that you can't say, but it's like, okay, I need to bring that in order to be able to scale sort of learning. So yeah, those are the challenges that mainly that I'm having right now.
And what's your process there in terms of, figuring out all of the priorities, then actually prioritizing those things? What's the process in figuring that out?
That it's a lot of talking to people and a lot of talking to a lot of people. So I think when I came into my current role, the first month I just spent talking, listening, getting to know the business, getting to know the leaders, getting an idea of, okay, what are the main themes that are coming out? What are the main pain points? Are there sort of synergies? Are there parallels around what everyone is feeling, what everyone think they need? And then figuring out, okay, so this is what I'm hearing. This is what I know where the business is going. Okay, what's going to make the most impact, and what's going to help the business move forward even quicker. So for me, it's talking, listening, the connections, making connections. I think in L&D, you need to be a connector. And sometimes you find yourself being that connector because everyone knows you, comes to you, and you're hearing things from all over the place. So it's being able to make those connections is really key.
And how do you kind of stay ahead when, imagine the requirements when you're at 20, 50, 100, 200, 500 changes, right? And so you've just kind of figured out what the priorities and what the structure is for 100-person company. But, in the next few months, you might all end up being a 200-person or 300-person company. So what's your process for making sure you're always staying on top of the kind of changing requirements, maybe even whether you need to change the structure, whether you need to go back to the starting point and go again?
I think I think my golden rules is don't hold on to anything too tightly. So don't become enamored with a structure, with a program, with anything that you hold on to it so tightly that you lose sight of where the business is going, and then you're left behind. So being flexible, being able to pivot quickly is key, and knowing that what I'm building right now may not look like this in 6 months' time, in a year's time, and it will change and evolve, and that's okay. Coupled with that, with that mindset, then what you're creating and what you're producing, you're not striving for perfection. You're striving for, okay, minimum viable product. Let's get things out there, and that then sort of evolves and you need to pivot. It's hard keeping ahead of the curve, and I think that's why the relationships and the connections are key, because you probably will never be able to be ahead, but you'll be in the loop, and you'll be able to, support, to follow through, to react quicker than not. So those connections are really key.
And David, it's interesting you mentioned kind of minimum viable products, right? Obviously, we hear a lot of this being in tech and product development. At what point did you start kind of adopting this idea within the work you do within L&D? Because it still is very rare. A lot of the work we see done within L&D is still very much the kind of big bang programs and large batch thinking. So maybe talk to me about at what point you adopted that idea and how that's changed your approach to L&D.
I'm trying to think back. Was there a moment in time? I think I can't remember of a moment, but I can remember a feeling of frustration, of having worked on something for so long and building it up, and then getting to the point where you're ready and it's already like, well, it's not quite, we've moved on, or it's great, but this is what we need now. And you're like, oh my God, I just spent so much time sort of getting that perfect. So there's that feeling is very real. Like, okay, I need to be moving quickly. And even I'm working on a project right now that is just the requirements are just changing as they go. And I'm thinking, okay, this is what I'm hearing this week. Okay, I'm going to prepare for it next week and just being nimble enough. I think once you go through that pain of realizing, oh gosh, I'm actually falling behind. I'm not keeping up. Then you instantly, it's a mindset change of thinking, okay, I need to just get things out. And what was challenging for me was the whole scrappiness, just being scrappy. Yeah. I'm like, I'm not too sure about scrappy. But then what was eye-opening for me was that it was meeting the need. It was like, okay, so this, program from a sort of perfectionist view, or my old sort of view, is that it wasn't very polished, but it was just exactly what my sort of teams needed. It met the need, it sort of hit the mark. And I was like, okay, well, if that works, then let's keep going down that way. So, yeah.